Yay!
Guys, welcome to our next edition of Trailblazing for Success.
Yay.
Today's fabulous guest for us is Shari Repinski, who is the CEO and Executive Director for Rocky Mountain Human Services.
Yep.
So, Shari, hello.
Hi, Shari.
We would love for you to kind of share with folks who are watching this a little bit about what RMHS does and kind of why you're out there for people.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. Rocky Mountain Human Services is a nonprofit organization that is in the state of Colorado. And really what we do is a variety of supports, case management primarily, but we do some direct service work. We provide case management and coordination for all the services that people need when they have a disability or maybe are homeless and are needing some housing. We support a lot of babies and toddlers who need some extra help in order to meet some developmental milestones. We provide some behavioral health services. So we are present in communities across the state, really leveraging the connections that we have with government and with other partnership organizations to be sure people are getting quick and easy access to what it is that they need.
Wow, that is so awesome.
We love what you do.
We do love what you do.
Yes, we do.
And we love the work that we've been able to do with you in the past.
Yeah.
As a leader, and specifically a leader in the nonprofit world, the leaders that we work with and the leaders that I see in that way are typically spread very thin, and as are all the folks that work in your beautiful community. And so I would ask, what is it that you're seeing kind of in industry for you right now that comes front of mind as the top challenge you're dealing with as a leader or within industry?
The one that comes to mind right away is, in order to do the amazing work that we do, we have to have a really great staff and great teams of people. And I think we are not unusual in that we are always trying to find the best people who are good fits for this work, who can be truly engaged in this work, who can give it their all. And being a nonprofit and working in government contracts doesn't always give us the kind of resources we would like to be able to really fully develop our team. So I would say the number one challenge for me is, how do we build a team? We have over 550 employees to do the work that we do. And it takes a lot to keep that group of people at their optimal, and being sure we're hiring the best team that we can. And so staffing is always a challenge. I would say on the flip side of that, because staffing can be a challenge, it can also be a challenge to fully meet the needs of people that we're supporting, because you have to have one in order to have the other. And so what we try to do here is be sure we keep it as simple as possible for the people who need these supports, so that they don't have to jump through a lot of hoops or follow the bureaucratic process that sometimes we are handed. And so if we don't have the great staff who are doing the work, sometimes it makes it a little bit more challenging to get what you need quickly and with as little effort as possible. And so we really focus on those two goals. I would say both are really big challenge areas for us, because this system and when people need supports, it can be complicated. And so we need the best staff, and we need to be able to keep it simple for people.
That's great. Thank you, Shari. How do you keep them all motivated and yourself motivated? Gail mentioned earlier, we know I love the quote. It's like you're too little butter spread on toast. It's a quote from, I don't think I've got it quite right, but the nerd in me comes out. It's from Lord of the Rings, where you're still trying to cover all the toast, but you only have so much butter to do it. How are you keeping yourself motivated? How are you keeping your teams motivated to be able to do the work that you do?
That's a great question. We every time we do our budget, we always say to ourselves, and there just simply isn't enough to do all the things that we would love to do, right? And so we are spreading our resources very thin. We really try to motivate our staff by being sure that they know why we're here in the first place. We are here to do this incredible work for people in the communities across Colorado, and that we have an important role to play in their lives so that they can easily get what it is that they need. We tell a lot of stories. We tell a lot of stories of those successes that we've had where sometimes it can be the smallest detail in somebody's life that makes the world of difference. It could be a brand new tricycle for a young kid, who has developmental delays, or it could be an air conditioning unit for a family in the hot summers. Like, it can be the smallest of details that make the world of difference for people who are in our communities. And so we try to tell a lot of stories because when we close up for the day, it's those stories that cause us to come back the next day and to give it our all. And I think we try to just stay focused on that. And that, I think, is what motivates our staff the most.
Yeah, I think that you hit the nail on the head. If you can, really engage your staff to connect with the mission, there's a lot of flexibility in people when they're passionate about that, when they're clearly focused on what the objective is. And a great way to do that is through storytelling and through that connection. I tell you, from my perspective, I'm definitely impacted by great stories, and I'm willing to give and stretch and flex more when I'm connected to that story and I understand the intent behind it. And right before Bruce mentioned something about, how do you keep folks motivated, I was envisioning, as you were telling your story about just navigating all the challenges, is like you're like the front offensive linemen for the folks that are out there, blocking and tackling to try to create this opening so they can go score, right, the touchdown. And
Absolutely.
I love that kind of idea, because I have been someone who grew up in a very kind of difficult circumstance, not a lot of money. My mother and I were on welfare, and there were some really rough and lean times there, and it was embarrassing, and there was a lot of shame around it. And so having resources and organizations like yours that can help people kind of bridge that gap, and like you said, the tiniest of things, the groceries, the tricycle, etc.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Those are rich, beautiful stories that I think people can connect to.
Well, actually, that brings up an important question for you, Shari, just to give yourself an opportunity to explain it. You gave two examples. Is there a story that you have that just is top of mind of some of the people that you're helping and working
with?
Yeah, just more detail.
There are so many different stories, and there are some great ones to tell. We see examples where we're able to help with somebody's rental assistance, somebody's rent for a month, and it just gives families a boost to be able to sort of get some things together that may be delayed, to be able to remain in their home for a long time. Of course, being on the also on the side where we're helping with homelessness. And people who are actually without a home. But we see the importance of those kinds of small things.
When you think about some of those, what I call power skills or special skills that your teams have in dealing with your clients, what do you think stands out for you as some of the strongest skills that are needed to be able to do their work well?
Yeah. It's really easy when you're doing this work. If you're not paying attention, it's really easy to walk through process, to focus in on, okay, well, I got to get all these things done in order for you to get what you need. So what we try to do is one of the biggest skills that we can help our staff with is how do you actually listen to what a person is telling you? Because sometimes what they're asking for isn't actually what they need. It takes a little bit of time to sort through, like, what is the one thing that might help this person in this situation? And quite honestly, sometimes it's just a listening ear,
Hmm.
to be able to be that person that receives that story and to say, yes, that sounds like a really hard spot that you're in, or, some way of really empathizing and being sure that, no matter what, we're here to hear people and we're here to listen to what they need, and then to open the door so that they can get the services that they need. And that is, it's a hard skill to develop, especially when, we're required to do so much process. It can be really hard to go back and forth, but you're focused on what you need to be able to do the process, but really pausing and listening to people and hearing their story and giving them some sense of hope and some sense of, I know things might be really hard right now, but here's what we can do to help, and here's how we can connect you with others. Sometimes just that little bit of hope can go a long way. So, that's the skill for a case manager or somebody working in our organization that is, incredibly powerful.
Oh, that is an incredible skill to have.
Yes, indeed.
Both listening, which I think is foundational to good empathy for sure, and it is teachable. It is something we can increase. It takes intention and it takes practice. We were having a
It does.
conversation the other day with a group of leaders, and we were saying, how many of you in this room, put your hand up, have had someone walk into your office or give you a call, and the first thing out of their mouth isn't actually what they really want to talk about or what's even bothering them.
Mm-hmm.
That really you're there to kind of create and cultivate that psychologically safe space so that you can get to it. So you have to be able to listen and elicit information from them. And so that is a powerful skill to have. I would say a superpower skill for sure.
Sure. All right, Shari, I'm gonna pivot and I'm gonna ask you a different question. What is in your leadership journey, right? So you've been a leader for a while. You've really risen in the ranks at RMHS. What's the best piece of advice that you've been given, either related to your leadership, creating teams, just really anything having to do with you as a human and a leader?
Good question.
Great question. I've had the opportunity to lead through some really tough times. Whether that's the pandemic or, some other just big changes that happen. I received advice early on, probably within my first few months of being in this role. And it was another CEO from a similar organization who said to me, "Sure, you got to sit with your staff.
Mm-hmm.
You just have to sit with your staff. You have to be sure that they know you're available to them. That you need to listen to what it is that they're needing, because nothing else can happen unless, you know what it is that they're struggling with, and what input they might have and what suggestions they might have." And so whenever we've gone through one of those times as an organization, the pandemic is a really great example. Um, I try to sit with my staff. I try to sit with the teams throughout the organization. I try to sit with individuals. Anybody who reaches out, I try to have a conversation with them. It's really important for staff to feel like they have a connection with the leader. It doesn't mean that I replace other leaders, and it doesn't mean that I replace, what other jobs need to be done in the organization, but just being able to, have a conversation
Hmm.
and be sure that we are connecting. I think, especially now, is really important to employees. And so it was great advice 9 years ago, and it's still great advice for me today when things get tough. I try to walk through the organization and sit down with people and see how they're doing, and what kinds of things are on their mind, and it just helps to build greater connection. That
I was
stayed with me.
Yeah, I was thinking when you were saying that sounds really easy,
It
to
does.
do. And I think because I think there's this sense of some leaders think, well, everybody's doing all right. They're showing me they're doing fine, so they're doing fine. There's some leaders who are too involved and constantly checking in. And so there's this, like you said, there's this beautiful balance of how does your team and your staff know that if they reach out, you will make time. And it sounds like that's what you've got going on.
Well,
I'm
and
going to say.
yeah, the other only thing I would say is it sounds like you're speeding up by slowing down, right?
Oh, I love that.
It's the concept of, hey, these conversations are important, they're critical. If we don't have them,
oh my gosh,
if we just push them on down the line, there's going to be a much bigger problem later. So it's this, this really what sounds like very, very present, coherent,
yeah.
mindful stepping back of, hey, let's talk. Do I have that correct? Am I thinking about that correctly?
Yeah, I think you do have that correctly, and I think you do have to slow down to speed up. And a lot of times, just being available and listening is always a good. I always learn something when I have a conversation with somebody in the organization, and it may be just something personally, but oftentimes it's something about what's important to them. I always make a rule that says, I always set up with that person, let's have this conversation, and I have to fix it through other people, right? I'm not the one to fix all things, but I do want to hear what you have to say. And I think that sets a really good balance scale, as you were saying, that sort of listening, but not being the sole fixer of all things. And it does kind of slow things down and be sure that we're paying attention to the things that we need to be paying attention to.
Yeah, it's kind of like if you have a map and you're driving somewhere, it's like you need to make sure you're still going through those. What are those small towns? Did we go through Amarillo? Are we on the right road? Because all those little touch points are so important. Otherwise, you're somewhere and you never had an opportunity to even know that you made a wrong turn.
And if you're as old as we are, you now need to turn down the radio in order to concentrate.
In order to read your map better.
Like the only way that you can do that is by the music must go down.
I don't know what that's about. There's something totally there. Like
sure that's not just
I can't see it. I think this. I'm going to pivot just a little bit. We're coming up on kind of the holidays. I'd love to know what you're looking forward to in terms of the holiday season coming up, or a trip even in the future that you've got going on that might be something on the horizon that is exciting. What's going on?
Well, I have I'm a new empty nester this year. My kids are all out of the house. I know it's a celebration now, so I'm also really. I have 3 kids, all college age or older, and I'm just looking forward to the time for us to all be in the same space, even if it's for a short moment.
Yeah.
That's what I love about the holiday, because everybody's on break and we can they're usually very brief. When everybody's together again, I think that is it fills me up for sure. So I'm looking forward to that.
Are there any books you've read recently, or books you're currently reading, or even movies or shows that have just inspired you or really moved you lately that you'd love to share?
Yeah, I am a reader, and but I get sucked into leadership and business books because I'm always interested in the new and upcoming thing. But I actually took a break. And I am fascinated with some historical representation, some historical fiction. And so I just read a book on a story about a woman and her kids in the Dust Bowl period, navigating that. And I'm reading a book right now on a couple who escaped from slavery. So, I love historical fiction, and I've taken a break from my leadership books because I just needed to sometimes to read something that was entertaining in a different way, and also informative and educational. So that's what I'm doing right now.
I love that. I think that's
great.
important. you don't have to be reading leadership books all the time as a leader.
No.
I think you need to be a whole person, and to be a whole person, you need all sorts of things.
Other things.
You need to eat out and take trips to New York City and see your kids and read books that move you and all of that great stuff. So,
well, Shari Repinski, it has been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for joining us on our little show.
So glad to catch up with you.
You're welcome.
About what's going on, and we're really excited about the success and the mission of Rocky Mountain Human Services. And just thank you for your time today.
Yep.
You've been amazing.
Oh, you're welcome. It's great to talk to you.
Well,
awesome.
We'll talk soon.
Yep.
Yeah, we'll talk again.
Okay. Awesome. We're all set. Thank you. You were in New York City. Oh. We're jealous that you were in New York City.
Did you go see the Saks Fifth Avenue
light show?
I